Hello and welcome. You're watching All About Your Company here on ET Now. Today we're going to be talking about a play which is an India pharmaceutical play. It's an innovator drug company from India, and the upsides here could be extremely large if the story starts to play out. And 2026 is a critical year for Wockhardt. Why is that so? There are approvals which are likely to come through the latter half of this year, or rather middle of this calendar year. Starting from the middle of this calendar year, you have India approvals, you have US approvals somewhere in the middle of the year. Towards July, August, you will start to also likely see European approvals come through for key drugs with a very large market size, $3 to $4 billion. That's not the market cap of the company, but you could well see that play out on the face of the company itself. And that's why we're going to talk about what that means and what the strategy for the company would be if even one or two of those approvals come in through the course of this year. So what could that be? How would that play out on a Wockhardt? Let's try and revisit that. First thing, it's a company which was incorporated in 1999. It's in the India pharmaceutical industry. It has been doing generics, which is copycat drugs, technically speaking, for a better part of its lifetime. Now they're getting into original drugs. They're going to produce it themselves through their own R&D processes. In very, very simple terms, it has been promoted by Dr. Habil Khorakiwala, and we will have him here in just a few minutes to speak to us about that. I'm going to run through the presentation so that I can speak to him. Now, in terms of Wockhardt itself, it's a pharma company that's trying to move away from generics, which is typically copycat medicines, to new antibiotics, especially for drug-resistant infections. That's what they are looking at. And, particularly, and while those graphics come on screen, particularly, they also have a niche within the diabetes segment. So different pillars. One is for drug-resistant infections. The other piece is diabetics as well. And they serve the diabetic market both in India as well as abroad. And it's the high-end diabetic market that they serve. So broadly, that's the case. Now, let's talk about products. Some of their key drugs are a Zenic, an Audrate of Faviscu, McNaf, and an Emroc. Those are broadly the biggest products. And among all of them, Zenic will be the biggest, very, very likely once the approvals come through, both India as well as US. A very, very large market size available for Zenic alone. So that itself gives a substantial upside. Outside of that, there's also McNaf. McNaf is more towards the India and the EM market. It's less of hospitalization, more of specialized kind of a drug without hospitalizations or pre-hospitalization. So that's really the tilt. And of course, that one is also very, very large in terms of size. So we're going to focus in on those two drugs today when we're going to speak with management. Now, in terms of geography, currently 22% comes from India, 78% is exports. From that 78%, 51% is Europe and UK. US is just about 3% now, and rest of the world is 24%. So really, that's the tilt or the split of that 78% bucket. That may well change as Zenic and McNaf both get approvals, and depending on the timing of the approval, that may change a little bit. But currently, that's the split. Let's talk about the business model. They do their research in-house, so it's integrated within the company itself. 11% of their top line goes to research, so they have a very large allocation in terms of R&D, in terms of the budget. They develop and they get their approvals also, because that is very important in an industry like this. You can't just do R&D. The drug has to go through the approval process. It has to get tested as well. Efficacy has to be checked. Thereafter, manufacturing starts, and they have manufacturing capabilities both in India as well as Europe with regard to US FDA-approved facilities in both places, and thereafter it goes for global commercialization. And when it does that, you really have the drug open globally with a patent out there to ensure that you are protected in terms of copycat drugs, as well as it allows you to earn higher margins on the drugs that you put out, depending on efficacy. And commercialization, of course, also is involved in terms of marketing costs. Through a distributor, through other pharmaceutical companies, the way in which you partner with them, how much is it that you pay them in terms of commission, all of that starts to play out in the global commercialization story. Now let's talk about the last 3 years of the company, as we always do. In terms of the top line, it's been weak. It's been a flat top line over the last few years. Why is that so? There's no growth. US generics was a loss-making business, and therefore profitability did not come through. I'd request you guys to keep flipping the slide and show the EBITDA numbers and show the PAT numbers as I go through it. High interest, high depreciation costs, and there were exceptional items as well. US write-offs, etc., which have impacted the numbers, and therefore you're seeing what you're seeing in terms of a loss-making company currently, but of course with a very, very strong pipeline in terms of product and very, very close to realization in terms of 3 or 4 products, not just one. So that may well change. In terms of the margin trajectory, so we're neutral just from a forward-looking or a forward-thinking perspective. You look at the margins and you look at the 9-month picture also, it's not really improved materially, but that's broadly the way in which it's structured. Let's talk about the margins now in terms of how the margins have moved. High R&D spends impact margins. It's also there are large one-offs, impairments, the US business impairment that they had to recognize, and deconsolidation of the US business, the restructuring that they did, low margin generic business, and high margin biosimilars. Depending on the year, it keeps margins extremely choppy, but more stability to the margins as and when biosimilars occupies a larger pie of the revenue, and that will likely be with the approvals coming in for McNaff and Zenic. Now let me talk about the balance sheet. As would be understandable, because of it being a loss-making company, you have debt sitting out there, but of course they've diluted some amount of equity as well, as a result of which the equity or the book value of the company has expanded. You can see that on the balance sheet itself. The borrowing number though, the debt to equity is 0.5 at this point. So that's really how it shapes up. In terms of cash flow, it's been very choppy, as would be understandable. Heavy capex, R&D kind of businesses. Therefore, that choppiness on the cash flow count is visible on your screens. Let me also talk about the return ratios. Again, looking backwards, it's looking extremely tough in terms of return ratios. That's how it is. But that's obviously because of everything that we have just detailed out in terms of the P&L. The shareholding pattern currently stands at around 49% in terms of promoter holding. That's the good part. Promoter holding still is very, very strong in that sense. FIs, DIs have also participated. And what you're seeing overall is public owns a very small chunk. And when you're looking at how should one look at Wockhardt in terms of valuations, it's at 20,000 crore in terms of market cap. The size itself, in terms of the opportunity size, is very, very large. For example, Zenic has a $3.5 to $4 billion opportunity size in the US alone. Globally, otherwise, outside of that, Europe could also be a large opportunity. And therefore, you could well see something of a very interesting play in the form of Wockhardt. Let me go across to Dr. Habil Khorakiwala in just a bit. We'll slip into a very short break. Valuations, not really clear, but we'll get a sense from Dr. Khorakiwala as to how things are progressing. And thereafter, we'll just touch upon valuations of what could play out if things go well. Stay with us. Okay, but now we spoke about this, and let me bring on board Dr. Habil Khorakiwala to give us a perspective. He's, of course, founder and chairman at Wockhardt Limited. Dr. Khorakiwala, it's great having you. I was just telling viewers, Dr. Khorakiwala, that the better way to look at Wockhardt is looking forward. It's not looking back, because the last 3 years' numbers don't do justice to the kind of market cap that you've built and the kind of organization that you're looking to build. So I want to first start off with the key drug, Zenic. Now, tell me, with regard to Zenic, when is the India approval expected now? We've had a considerable positive development in the month of March 2026. How quickly can we expect in terms of the India approval to come through?
Thank you very much for this discussion. We have just received from the CGI expert committee. Okay, they have accepted Zenic clinical trial results. And I hope that in next 3 months or so, we should be receiving India's approval at the CGI level. and maybe another 3 months after that, our product Zenic would be available in the hospitals.
So 3 months to the approval and another 3 months thereafter, it will start becoming available in hospitals for the current financial year. H2 is really the year in which you are expecting to see numbers start to come through with regard to a Zenic. Am I right when I say that?
Yeah, we will introduce a product and like a new molecule, new drug. It takes time before the medical profession, doctors and specialists get fully communicated about scientific outcome of the drug before using. In case of Zenic, we have an advantage that we have more than 80 patient use compassionate with tremendous near 100% result. And therefore, Indian doctors are getting reasonably familiar with it. Also, we would be undertaking a pre-introduction activities to communicate scientific part of the molecule. So we expect a good introduction of the product in India.
Okay. And with regard to, so you'll first only go through hospitals, right? Thereafter, you will go through GPs as well. Oh, that's for McNaff. That's not much for Zenic. Okay. Let me roll back to Zenic. Let me try and understand what the US strategy is going to be. Yeah. Sorry.
Our US strategy is similar in the sense that we expect the approval to come in next 3 to 4 months. And also it will take another 4 months, 5 months before we will be introducing in US. But I must say that we are in the process of building a US organization in a team, and some of the top leadership positions are in place. So we are on our way to introduce Zenic in USA, either later part of the year or early next year.
Okay. And talk to us about the size that you're willing to capture. I know the market size is very, very large, both in India as well as the US. My understanding is it's around 15,000 crore in India. It's around $3.5 to $4 billion in the US. Correct me if I'm wrong. How much of that market will you look to capture in the immediate term? How much capacity have you built to capture that market?
Well, we have built enough capacity in Europe and India to meet the Zenic demand. But at the same time, we must recognize that a new drug, and especially a new antibiotic, which is used in critical cases, requires time before doctors are fully familiar with the use and also understand when to use it and where to use it. So it will have a relatively modest start for first 12 to 18 months. And obviously, thereafter, we will see a very significant improvement in the Zenic uptake.
So in terms of timelines, Dr. Khorakiwala, just to kind of break it down for viewers, FY27 will be the year for approvals, FY28 will be the year of ramp up, and FY29 will be the year of full-blown growth is what we will see. But we will see a material impact on your numbers because you're operating off a very, very low base of 3,000 crore in terms of top line. And the opportunity size is very, very large. Talk to us about what happens with regard to margins and how pricing will evolve and how strategy is evolving. US, are you going through a pharma distributor? Are you going to follow that model? Are you going to follow a model where you're going to partner with someone? How does that work?
See, our US model is we are creating a whole organization ourselves. And in that process, what we are really doing is a key leadership position in science, medical, sales and marketing, and other key, a few other areas. We are already started recruiting people and they are already on board today. Some of them, and some will join the board in the next 2 months or 3 months. Then we are working with various, one of the agencies to support us in all other function of recruiting other 70, 80 people for the sales, for other part of the organizational activities. So we believe that we will be fully ready when the product is is approved and product is available.
And how, Dr. Khorakiwala, how should this reflect on your numbers, both Zenic as well as McNaff? And the opportunity size is extremely large. How much of that opportunity do you tap? What should the aspirational number look like in terms of top line? Because currently I'm not able to kind of envisage, or I'm not able to kind of place that in my head.
As a company top line, including these products, because as I mentioned, it would be a modest start, would continue to grow as an overall company around 20-25% in the current year. And we hope that subsequent year it will accelerate, because we just received a full approval of ICTAF only a couple of months back. So two things we are doing in that area. That in the first phase, we are expanding the coverage from 6 to 7,000 doctors, which are chest specialists, to a large number of doctors covering all the consulting physicians. And beginning this year, in the next few months, we will be covering as many as 40,000 doctors. And we do expect a significant uptake on MICTEF during FY27 itself. But I think it will continue to grow significantly in 28 and 29, as you rightly emphasized.
You've introduced McNaff to the Saudi market, Dr. Khorakiwala. How has that been accepted? And what's the strategy there? Give us a sense.
We have not yet introduced in Saudi market, and the product is not yet approved. So we are in discussion with Saudi regulatory authorities for going forward, because they raised some of the queries, and we are in a process of dealing with some of them. So I'm not able to comment much on the Saudi market impact in FY27.
Understood. Okay. With regard to your growth itself, you've guided for what, 25% growth, but that's on the standalone business, right? If I've understood that correctly.
Yeah, that is collectively all put together, because our emphasis is also there in India business significantly. And that will get reflected in our biological portfolio or other portfolio. We are introducing a number of products last year and early this year. So all collectively will give us this level of growth, with more or less existing business and a small piece coming from a new molecule.
And with regard to debt, cash flow, R&D, GLP-1, what's playing out? Because R&D will continue to be a large part of what you continue to fund. How do you fund that? How are you going to generate cash flow? And how is the debt going to likely play out? Give us a sense of that.
I think we will continue to invest in R&D at reasonably same level over the next several years, actually. That will remain more or less unchanged, because we are committed to create, because today we are the most successful antibiotic research organization anywhere in the world, in terms of having 4 and 5 molecules introduced within a span of few years. It has never happened before in the history of antibiotic era of last 100 years. So we believe we have a great opportunity to build on this discovery success. And therefore, one expects, and I think we have given in various forums, the expected reaction of the peak sales for Zenic and other molecules also. So I think we will follow that trajectory, actually.
And with regard to GLP-1,
margin would be always much better than what our commercial business, what it is today, as the percentage of our new molecule becomes larger and larger. And there is also one thing I just mentioned, that after Zenic approval by US FDA, we will be going to another 8 or 10 countries in emerging markets, which are very potential market. And we would be filing them within a month or two after Zenic approval. and we expect that approval to come within a year or so. So FY28 will see also Zenic getting introduced not only in India and US, but several other countries.
Dr. Khorakiwala, it's been an absolute pleasure to try and break this down. I'd love to have spoken more a little bit about GLP-1 as well. But believe that these were the bigger stories to really play when it comes to Wockhardt. Out of time, viewers, unfortunately, on this edition of All About Your Company. Thank you so much for tuning in. More action on the other side. Stay with us here on ET Now.